Hi, my name is Oliver, and today I'll be teaching you how to create this Instagram story ad using a pack called Kinetic Typography by AEJuice. So to get started, I'll go up to composition, create a new composition. I'll just call this main. And because this is an Instagram story ad, it's not going to be 16 by 9, it's going to be 9 by 16. Therefore, the width is 1080 and the height is 1920. The duration is set to a little bit above 8 seconds because I have some music that I've cut out, which is roughly that length. I'll click OK. So as you can see, I've set up the workspace a bit differently today because I have this other aspect ratio I'm working with, and therefore it's just easier to have it on the side rather than above the sort of timeline. Now, the Instagram advert that I'm going to make is a fake one for ACES, and therefore also needs some footage. Now, the footage that I found is from pixels.com, and this is just a website full of free stock photos and stock videos. Now, as you can see, if I drag this into the composition, you can see it's quite large, so therefore I also need to scale it down so it roughly fits, and then just sort of center it up. And we can just quickly take a look at this and preview it to see what we're working with. So as you can see, we have this beige background and we have this model entering the frame, showing off the clothes. And then if we take a look at sort of the end, she leaves again. So we're going to work with this and the Kinetic Typography pack to create an amazing Instagram story ad. Now, here's some thoughts about the story ads before I really get into it. So the story ads on Instagram are when you're going through the stories and all of a sudden there's this sponsored post. So you sort of don't want it to stand out too much as an advertisement. And therefore, I'm not going to write swipe up or anything like that. I'm just going to do some basic text with the ACES slogan, as well as the ACES logo at the end. And I'm just sort of showing off the clothes and the fashion, and then people can decide to swipe up if they want to. But this is also about brand recognition, so they sort of recognize the ACES brand and have that on their mind. Now, the ACES slogan is Discover Fashion Online, as you can see here on the logo type. That's what we're going to display throughout the video. But before we get into this, I think we should take a look at the Kinetic Typography pack. So as you can see, I have the AEJuice pack manager up here, and then I have the Kinetic Typography package opened. So Kinetic Typography in this example is when there's a lot of text moving around, and here it's sort of the same text, and you see there's a lot of different examples, some very interesting ones, and you can really use this for a lot of different things. You can use it for background elements or as an introduction. And in this example, we're going to use it as a background element that's going to fit in perfectly. So one thing I think will work perfect for this is this one called poster number 5. As you can see, that it has the text perfect on it. But I think we're just going to take this and then we're going to alter it to new. So it's sort of stating that these are new clothes, it's a new collection, and you can go shop that if you want to. So to import this into our composition, we're simply going to double click it. You could also drag it in. And it's just going to load. So now you can see we have the perfect text all over, but we're of course going to modify this so it works for our project. So I can just zoom out and we can open up that composition. And as you can see, here we just have the perfect text. Then we have a controls layer. And if you go into the effect control here, you can see there are the different controls that you can adjust. But first, I think we're going to open up the text pre-comp and just adjust the text to our liking. So we can go ahead and select the text, and I'm just going to type in new as this example, and then we can go down and change the font. So I'm thinking of something like Montserrat, and I'm going to go for the bold version. And as you can see, we just need this to fit. So we can drag it up a bit so it's sort of centered, and then we can go back into the poster 5 composition to see what this looks like. So as you can see, the text is now all set up and animated. And what we really need to change now is perhaps the colors. So if we click the controls layer and go into the effects control, I actually want to sort of remove the background. So it's a transparent background. And then I want the text to be this sort of dark gray color. So I'll go into the text color. And here I'm just going to pick something along the lines of this dark grayish color around here. And click OK. And after I have selected that, I can go back into the composition. And if I unshade the layers, you can see that we have this poster layer. If If I go into this, I can actually just turn off the background completely here, so we only have the text. And if I go back into the main composition, you can see that the text is now on top. So that's what we want really here at the start. Now, before we start sort of implementing this into the video itself, I actually think we should work on the music part and try to cut the video to the music and make these cuts that sort of make sense. So I'm just going to hide this for now. Then I'm going to find my music over here, and I can just drag that into the composition. So let's quickly take a listen to the music. So as you can hear, this is really high tempo music, and it's very upbeat. It really fits this sort of fashion style. And we're going to make some sort of glitchy cuts that focuses on certain parts of the clothes. So we can zoom in on the shoes or the shirt, just have the upper body or the lower body. And instead of just seeing everything at once, we can sort of jump back and forth. So I think here at the start, we have this sort of drop. And if I press L 2 times and zoom in on the wave form here, you can see right here, this is where the sort of beat drops. So this is really where we want the model to step in. So therefore we can take this clip and just drag it back. So that's the point where she just puts down her foot right around here. But to make it a bit more obvious, we can sort of zoom in on her legs. So we can press S in scale, increase the scale, and just roughly place her so we can see most of her legs and a little bit of her upper body. So something like this. So right as she touches the ground here, we're just going to split the layer. So select it or press Command or Control Shift D. And then we're going to zoom out a bit so we can see a bit more of her body. But we're not going to fully zoom out yet. And actually we can just drag this in a bit so we cut a bit in time. And just drag this back in. We just have to make sure that we're seeing a little more of her upper body. So this could be right around here. And we just have to make sure that she sort of fits the frame. Right here, we can play that back. So now we have to decide when we want to make our next cut. And I think for the next cut, we can sort of zoom out completely. So get the full body and the full frame. And we just have to decide with the music where that really fits. So let's take a listen. So I think right where this sort of horn starts to make a sound, that's sort of where I want to cut it. And that's sort of where it makes sense in my head. So I think that's right around here. If I'm not completely mistaken, you can see it sort of changes here. Let's take a listen. Yeah, right here. So now we want to make a cut again. And we can just zoom out completely. So we have to sort of line this up and see where it should be. So we zoom out a bit more. Right around here. And we just want to make sure that she's completely in the frame. And we can play that part back again. So I actually think it would be fitting if we make it right after here, because it has to be a bit glitchy so they can be quite close. So this sort of second air horn. So let's try and find that by just holding down Command and Control. So really listen to this in slow motion. So I think that's right around here. We just make the cut. And now I just want to zoom in all the way on her legs and shoes and really focus on that. So we can scale this up again. So right around here, we can take a look. So you can see it's a bit offbeat. And also she makes this sort of stance, a pose. And I think we can actually just adjust the timing so we get that pose right as we cut. So I think just a few frames ahead, we'll make the cut. And then we will sort of try and get it to do that stance right away. And then we'll sort of try and make her do that stance right away. So I think right around here. Let's see if that works out. I think it should. So let's get ready for the next cut. And I actually think I already know where I want to do that. We have these sort of horns again right around here. So you can hear them 2 times. And I think the first one is right here. You can also see the music is changing a bit. So we'll make the first cut right here. And now we want to zoom out to a total so we can see everything. But it's quite boring if we just go to that in one step. So we'll do it in 2 steps because we have these 2 horns. Now to make it a bit more interesting, I think for the first one, we'll zoom out a bit and just make her go to one side. So we just take a look at her sort of like this. She can maybe be cut off a bit. We can also zoom in a bit more. So I think right around here should be fine. And then for the next sort of air horn, we want to zoom all the way out. So let's take a listen at where that is at. So I think right here. So we cut again. And this time we just have to make sure that we are zoomed all the way out. So that should be right around here. And let's take a look at how that sounds and feels. So I think right here at the end, we want her to walk out as that sort of beat hits. So that's right around here. We can just zoom in and make sure that we hit it perfectly. So right here. And then we simply just want to make another cut and just make sure that she's leaving the frame. So right here. And we have this sort of flash right here, and we don't really want that right before it cuts. It looks weird that they are so close together. And therefore we can just do some magic and just drag it over so we make sure that that never really appears. So right here. And we can just drag it out to make sure it fits. But as you can see over here, that sort of messes up the timing, because then that action happens twice. But there's a way you can fix this. We essentially just have to take this top clip, drag it out, and then split it right here. Then we take the position and scale, and just copy them from this bottom layer, paste them on top, then delete the bottom layer, and that way we just have that same zoom, but now the movement is much smoother because it translates to the next clip. So as you can see, we can play it back and see how that looks. So she sort of leaves the frame, and this is where we want to implement the Asus logo and the sort of kinetic typography. But first of all, we want to animate this start clip a bit. So we want it to start at the bottom here and then move upwards, but we can't really do that because the clip is so big. But what we can do is go up and select the rectangle tool. If you can't see that, just click and hold, and you'll find it in here. Then we can drag out a rectangle that sort of fits the entire frame. Then we're going to the mask, we'll add a keyframe, just zoom in, and we can drag that out a bit. And then here at the start, we simply want to select these two upper points and drag them down, so they will sort of reveal a bit of the background. Then we can select the two keyframes and ease them, go into the graph editor, just drag this in a bit so we have that extreme easing. So at the start, it's really quick in the speed, and then it sort of slows down. So if we play that back, you can see that we may need a bit more time, but it's really that concept. And we can even take that mask and drag it a bit further down. And now really what we want is this sort of same background color, but with the kinetic typography on top. So it's not visible in the bottom part, but it's visible in the top part. So the way we're going to do this is take this bottom layer, duplicate it. We're just going to delete the mask, and then we'll right click, go to time, and then we'll freeze frame. So this way we just have this solid color, and we want to put this underneath, and we also want to take the kinetic typography and put that just on top of that layer. So if we turn this on, you can see that the kinetic typography is then visible here at the top, and we can try and play that back. And it just gives this quick effect where you can see the kinetic typography, and then we're also going to use it at the end to really tie the two things together. Now here at the start, I even think we could actually scale up this clip even more. So we just take it, scale it up a bit more, just make sure that we have dragged this properly, and play that back. So that really just fits better because you see a bit more of the shoe earlier. So now we can go to the very end here, and this is just as she sort of leaves the clip. And we also want to decide a point of time here, we want the Asus logo to appear. So we'll just take a listen to the music. So you can hear there's this sort of beat just right after, right here. And this is sort of the point where I think the Asus logo could just appear with the Kinetic Typography and just sort of fly in really quickly. So we'll go to the Project tab. I've just found this Asus logo with a black sort of background, a box. We just take that and drag it into the composition. And now we just want to make sure that it's centered. So we can go to the Align tab and just line it up. And then we just want to scale it down, so we have a bit of air around it. And now we also want the Kinetic Typography to appear again. So as you can see, we have it here underneath. And we just want to take this point and just split it. And then we can put it on top of all of the clips, so it's actually visible. And now we also want to make the Asus logo fly in. So we can also just trim that layer, zoom in a bit, and just add a keyframe to the scale, drag it a bit ahead. And then here at the start, we just want it to be scaled up quite a bit. Ease the keyframes. And we want to make this easing quite extreme. So therefore we just drag the handle at the right. Just really make it sort of deaccelerate rather quickly. As you can see, it sort of pops in there with the rest of the text. And now I want this box to be the same color as the background text. Therefore I can go to the effects and presets, search for Tint. And this is just an effect that makes me able to change the black color to something else and the white color to something else. So I'll map the black color to sort of this brownish color in the background. And I really want to try and pick maybe a bit of a darker one. So like this. And if I don't like that, I can just go into the poster here, go into the controls, and here I have already selected this text color, so I can just copy that, go back in here, and then I can just change it to that one. So that's a bit darker if that's what I really want for this. So when I play it back, you can see this is the effect that we get. And you can see the last clip ends a bit too quickly. We can basically just go here towards the end where we just have the background color of the clip. Then we press Command and Control Shift D to split it and Command and Control D to duplicate it. Then we can just drag that towards the end, so we just have a bit more of that background. So now the last thing that we sort of need to do is add the slogan, which is Discover Fashion Online. And I think that we can just make this text appear as we make some of these quite glitchy cuts. So the first text should appear here at the first cut. And I'll just go to this point, go to the text or type tool, click, and I'll type in discover as the first word. So I just have to get the character tab here, just to make sure that we're working with the right scale. So I can just scale it down essentially. And also in the paragraph tab, just make sure that it's aligned to the center. And just line it up really quickly. So I don't think I want to choose bold for this one. So I'll just go in and maybe go for a medium. And I can also apply a drop shadow just to make sure that the text is really visible. So drag that onto the layer. Just set the distance to 0 and maybe the softness to something like 40. And just turn it down to around 30. So just a tiny bit of drop shadow just to make sure that it really stands out from the rest. So now I can trim this layer. So just go to the point where it cuts and just trim it. And then I can see where I want the two other sort of words to get in. So it's discover and then it's fashion and online. So let's play it back. So I think right when it changes here, we can go over to fashion. So I just select the layer and split it. Then I type in fashion. And I just have to make sure that it's still aligned as I want it to be. It should be right here, and we can play that back again. Then I think at the second cut here, we can change that over to online. So split it, type in online, and then I just have to make sure that it sort of disappears as the Asus text appears. So right here, just split it, and we can take a look at the entire thing. So I actually think we can even make it disappear quicker. So right here, as she starts to walk out, we can sort of trim it to that point. I think there's not enough change here. So I maybe want to take this clip and just scale it up quite a bit, just so we see sort of her legs as she walks out. Right here, maybe a bit more. And I can do this because the clip is such good quality. So this right here. So I think that just works better because she sort of fills out the frame better. And then we get this Asus logo. So let's take a final look. Now that's really all there is for this video. You can take the tips and the techniques that I provided in this video and use it to create any sort of story ad that you really want to. It's the same sort of rules that apply. This is just one style and you can certainly use some other styles. If you want to take a look at the Kinetic Typography pack, there's a download link in the description. And there will also be a link where you can find the free stock footage, as well as a link for the song that I used in this video. Now if you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like, post a comment down below and tell me if the Kinetic Typography pack is something that you could see yourself using. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to get notified when future videos are uploaded. That's all for now, until next time.